Howdy guys, today I want to do something a little different from the normal video that I produce. I've been looking for different ways to make content on YouTube for a while, and I've thought about doing stuff like this, versus battles, video essays, and other things. Video essays, I would assume, take far longer, especially in editing, to create, and I have no idea how to make a script for that, so I figured why not just have a basic discussion about who would probably win between these two characters. And today I have Monet here, my sidekick, to help discuss who would win.
Hi.
That's a very great intro from Monet.
Thank you.
Anyways, so this battle clearly, if you haven't seen the title or the thumbnail, it's Aizawa versus Stain. This is a pretty popular versus that I've seen around. Like, these two are people who have pretty similar, I don't want to say fighting styles, but fighting styles. They're both people who use quirks that don't enhance their strength or their speed or anything. Like, Aizawa is just a normal person for the most part. And so is Stain. They're just superhuman in, you know, for Aizawa, it's his, technique with the binding cloth, and Stain with his freakish speed, which we will be getting into later on. That said, this is going to go into primarily three parts, where Monet is going to talk about Aizawa and, certain aspects of him, just kind of the rundown, and then I'm going to talk about Stain, and then we're going to get into the battle and what would probably happen between the two. So, with that out of the way, that little intro, I'm going to pass it off to Monet.
So, Aizawa, the sexy boy we all know and love, has the ability to temporarily erase other people's quirks just by looking at them. So, his stats are as follows: Power, 3 out of 5, Speed, 4 out of 5, Cooperation, 3 out of 5, Technique, 6 out of 5, and Intelligence is 4 out of 5. He has a scarf made of steel wire alloy, caltrops, and goggles that hide his eyes from the enemy, as well as a knife. He's pretty strong, fast, resilient, and smart, and he's pretty good at hand-to-hand combat, since he excels at pinning down opponents to break their limbs.
Alright, with that out of the way, now we're moving on to the Hero Killer Stain. His quirk is Blood Curdle. If you do not remember, then basically all his quirk does is allow him to paralyze people that he ingests the blood of. So he uses this by cutting people and then licking the blade, which I'm sure has given him many diseases, one of which is probably hepatitis. Anyways, his strength, surprisingly, is only a 3 out of 5, despite him being able to cut through things like Shoto's ice several times, but that's a whole different thing. His speed is 6 out of 5. This is actually S tier. So his speed is, it's incredible. It is up there with some of the most dangerous people in MHA, aside from what their quirks do. His technique is 5 out of 5, which is insane. Though I suppose it would have to be, given the fact that he's wielding swords and knives to ungodly levels of effect. His intelligence is 3 out of 5, which I personally disagree with, but it's whatever. And his co-op is 1 out of 5. He is horrible at cooperating with anyone, as we saw with Shigaraki. He has several feats, which we will get into later on, but like I said, he can cut through Todoroki's ice, he speed blitzed Shigaraki and Kurogiri, and he reacted to Shoto's flame point blank, basically. His equipment is a worn katana, so it's not super sharp, but you know, it's still there. It's still katana. It's still pierce, Aizawa especially. 5 daggers, multiple throwing knives, toe spiked boots, and folding knives, all hidden throughout his entire body. Some of them not hidden, but you know. So now we're gonna get into the more open for discussion and interpretation battle. Now, given how both of these people operate, what would probably happen is Stain would be out during the night, you know, combing through alleyways for heroes, however he lures them into them, or if he just, you know, walks into random alleyway. Or if he just walks into random alleyways that heroes are standing in for whatever reason. Aizawa would just be perched atop some sort of building like he's Batman. Which actually, he basically is. So, the way I see the fight really starting is Stain paralyzes the hero, is about to kill him, and then Aizawa jumps in, tries to sneak attack him. Stain notices, dodges it, and now they are squaring off. Alright, so you think Aizawa would come out on top, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is post USJ. We can say Aizawa might be a tiny bit faster and a tiny bit stronger than he was at USJ. That's not it for sure though, but given the force training arc, what happens there, one feat that he has, I would assume it is possible he is at least slightly faster. At least in that arc.
Just do.
Compared to how he is in USJ. Now, that said, we do not know how his scarf functions compared to blades. They say it's a metal alloy and blah blah blah, right? The BS anime science that they come up with. So, if this scarf just gets torn to shreds by Stain's knife, there's no way in hell Aizawa was gonna win. He can throw all the goddamn cow traps, however you say that, ninja things on the ground he wants. That's not gonna do crap, and he's gonna get killed. He could maybe pull out his ginormous knife that he has. I mean, that thing is humongous. I mean, any Texan would be jealous of that. But either way, Aizawa gets killed if that scarf cannot protect him from knives. So we're going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say this scarf does not get cut by knives. So Aizawa would probably attempt to... So we'll do this in character for both of them. So, Stain wants to kill Aizawa, and Aizawa wants to capture Stain. Right? They're not bloodlusted. We could discuss a bloodlusted round, but I think... Then I don't think there's too much that would change.
Well, Stain can't use his quirk as long as the Aizawa doesn't decide to blink or gets impaled in the eyes. But that's what his goggles are for. So, as long as he can upkeep his quirk, then I think he has a way better chance to not die from Stain. Because Stain can't paralyze him. Stain can't paralyze him if his quirk's not working.
That is true to a degree. One, I don't think his goggles would protect him from...
I mean, that's what they were made for.
Actually, what they were made for was to shield his eyes from being seen by people.
Wow.
Because then they know when he blinked. And who he's looking at. They say in his first fight, blah blah blah. And then the whole reason Shigaraki even engages him is because he figures out the tell for his quirk being used, and it's that his eyes, his hair, sorry, his hair, kind of becomes he becomes a Super Saiyan a little bit when he starts using his eyes, his quirk at least, his eyes for his quirk. He's using,
yeah.
And I think if Shigaraki could figure that out. Now, Shigaraki and Deku are compared a lot of the time, and they're like, they're prodigies. They're almost considered geniuses. Um, at least, definitely compared to people like, normal people. So they're pretty smart. I don't know what their stats specifically are, but I'm pretty sure if like Deku in his fight with Stain was figuring stuff out, and then Stain was countering a lot of it, and he was able to outthink Izuku and Shoto, who were easily in the top 5 at least at that point. Think thonkers and fighters at UA, or at least in class 1A. And then he was able to outthink pro heroes a lot of the time. Not to mention, this was a man who, while he was really deranged, he was pretty intelligent. He was really intelligent in that fight. But not only that, this was someone who was confident enough to, after being defeated by those 3 at UA, stand up and walk towards Endeavor. Like, this man wanted to kill Endeavor, despite him being wounded severely, with at least some broken ribs, and burn marks all over him, being turned into freaking fried chicken. This man, he not only was tough, but he was pretty intelligent and pretty intuitive. Which is why I think, he also, not just him being fast and being able to go up against people like Endeavor, him being intelligent is also something to note. Not only that, but also his technique with all of his weapons. I mean, this man threw a sword up into the air, could perfectly time when it was going to fall off, as well as grabbing one of his knives and rushing towards Shoto, and having both of those well timed enough so that either whatever Shoto did, something was going to happen to him. And then I'm not sure if he knew about Shoto's flames or what, but that's what initially caught him off guard. But still, I mean, and the only reason he lost is because he was dealing with 3 opponents at once. They all had pretty good quirks, and one of them was someone who was just freaking spewing out flames and ice like nobody's business, and he was still able to nearly, kill them several times. Not only that, he was also, it's implied, at least by Gran Torino, that Stain may have been going a little easy on them, and I can kind of get behind that. Like, he definitely didn't want to kill Deku. I don't know about Shoto. I think he did want to kill him. But I know he wanted to kill Ida. He had no qualms about killing him. His main problem was Shoto, because Shoto is a really, really, really overpowered person with his quirk. So his main problem was him. And that Deku kept getting up every 2 minutes and getting freaking cut again, but whatever. So while I do think Aizawa would stop him from initially being able to use his paralyzed quirk, I think he would eventually figure out Aizawa's quirk and how it worked, especially with the tell and whatnot. The thing is, would he even be able to cut Aizawa? Like, do you think he could get behind, Aizawa, Eraserhead, and cut him or cut him and then get out of his line of sight and paralyze him. Or once he figures out the tell and he still has some blood on a knife that he saved, he could just lick it. Like, there are a lot of different ways he could do it.
I mean, I feel like Aizawa would be able to, like, prepare for all of that because of his high intelligence. So I feel like he would suspect, like, because he is aware that of his own tells for his quirks and stuff. So I feel like he would have to, like, pay attention and make sure he doesn't get cut, kind of thing. Always know where his opponent is at, where he's going. And I feel like because of how long he's been doing this, he knows his own tells, and, like, he knows how to keep an eye on them even if they are really fast.
I will say that I do kind of agree with that. I think the only reason he got so messed up by Shigaraki was because of the fact he had fought like 50 villains before that. I think it was like a total of 70 something villains that were arrested,
Yeah.
other than Nomu at USJ. I don't know about 50, but he at least fought like,
Yeah,
I would say, a
he's-
good 15 or 20.
He's not even
Villains.
used to doing that either. He's used to just doing kind of one-on-one things, isn't he?
One-on-one things, yeah.
For the most part. And he still did pretty well doing it with multiple people. He just was not prepared for Shigaraki to be baby brat and touch him.
But I will say, and he was worried about the kids and blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah, right?
he had a lot more on his plate at that point in time.
But I definitely have to say, being aware of your tells doesn't mean you can stop them. I mean, what is
Yeah,
he
you
gonna
can't
do?
stop him, but he's more aware of them. So, like, he knows his timing, and knows he knows his timing. He knows when he should. He probably knows when he should blank and when he shouldn't.
Okay. Now, the one problem I have with all of that is I don't think their quirks even matter. I think their quirks have zero.
I mean, if Stain were to cut him and Aizawa didn't have the thing, it's over for Aizawa. Aizawa's blood type is the worst.
That is true.
So it does matter, but if his quirks erased and Aizawa can keep up with it, then
Yeah, but
at
remember
that point it doesn't matter.
remember the thing I said earlier is that Aizawa is basically a normal human being,
He's like Batman.
right? That's why their quirks don't matter, is because like we could even take Stain's quirk away for good. Like we can say Aizawa has unlimited time using his quirk, and I still think Stain is going to beat him, and here's why: speed. And I bring this up now because yes, while Aizawa was tired when he was getting fondled by Shigaraki, he still got touched by Shigaraki. He still had Shigaraki get close to him. So he still got touched by Shigaraki. That's the number one thing here. He still got touched. And in the next arc, while yes, Shigaraki had just finished getting, healed, both he and Kurogiri get cut by Stain, and they have no idea what happened. You can find the scene. It's actually kind of hard to find now, but I don't know what episode it was. It's the episode, I think, right before Stain starts attacking, the whole big Stain fight and everything, and the Hosu City incident. But Stain cuts them so quick. He moves so unbelievably quick that neither Shigaraki or Kurogiri can even register that they've been cut and that they are now paralyzed. Now, you can read that as, oh, I'm paralyzed, what happened? But the way it's kind of shown is Shigaraki's laying on the ground and he's like what the hell happened? And then Kurogiri's like, I have no freaking idea. Um, and so it kind of seems like Stain moved so quick that he was able to cut Kurogiri and then Shigaraki and lick both their blood and then get on top of Shigaraki, I believe. And then, have his knife close to Shigaraki's neck, all without them kind of realizing what's happening. Like, it being a blur. And what that tells me is he speed blitzed not one, but two characters who, mind you, they're not great. They're not super quick. Shigaraki's pretty intelligent. I would say Kurogiri is, but they're not the most powerful characters.
How close were they together? Like, all the three of them?
I have no idea, but they were all in the bar. They were fairly close, but see, Kurogiri was behind the bar, and Shigaraki wasn't. So, Stain had to leap by the bar, cut Kurogiri's arm, and then turn back around, or at least turn to the side, depending on how he did it, and then cut Shigaraki, somehow land perfectly on top of him, and then get the knife close enough to Shigaraki's neck. Right? So, that would and all without them kind of realizing what's going on, or it being so quick that it was difficult to register. So what that tells me is Stain speed blitzed a character that was able to get close enough to a tired Aizawa, mind you, a tired one, but still get close enough to Aizawa and touch him. Right? And Aizawa was only tired. He wasn't particularly he wasn't injured, I don't believe, at all. He was dealing with multiple enemies, but still. So even if Stain isn't able to speed blitz, because I will say it is possible Aizawa is able to react and defend himself, I don't see him going on the offensive against Stain, let alone being able to really capture him. That said, the one thing I do give Aizawa is if he can get a piece of that cloth around Stain, it won't get cut. And thus, it is more difficult to get out of. But, I will say, that is also a weakness for Aizawa. And I'll get into that in a second. But is there anything you have to say?
Aizawa could use his scarf to protect himself from getting cut or anything.
Yeah, that's what I was implying. I'm like, so he can defend himself. He can go on the defensive with his scarf. So, Aizawa could use the scarf to protect himself, and maybe in the process, because he does have better technique than Stain. I don't know specifically the difference between intelligence and technique, since I think you have to be pretty intelligent to have a high, amount of technique, especially in that field. For instance, Stain, a feat for his technique is that Shoto scene where he throws a sword up in the air and blah blah blah, right? And he's throwing knives all over the place while he's in the air, and he's jumping everywhere, right? But I think that's also kind of an intelligence thing. Either way,
Aizawa could definitely act like he's gonna try to capture him with his caltrops, and then actually to kind of distract him with that, and then actually just whip out his scarf and grab his leg or something.
Yeah. The only thing I could see Aizawa doing is possibly trying to use those call traps, whatever. His ninja tools. And then feigning something, or defending with his scarf against Stain, and then
his scarf is supposed to be
defending with his scarf against Stain, and then slipping a little thing over Stain's feet, and then very slowly kind of wrapping Stain up in his scarf ever so, sneakily until Stain is like, oh crap, what's going on? And then he's suddenly captured. The thing there is Stain did start getting really wild and like hyper focusing on one thing, and that's kind of what they say allowed him to lose, is because he kept making mistakes. But mind you, he was also going up against multiple opponents, and now there's just one opponent, and he only has to see this one opponent's actions. So I think, Stain, while he does have lower intelligence and technique, I think he'd be able to catch on. Just like how Aizawa has lower speed, but he may be able to react and, dodge and defend. Maybe not attack, but dodge and defend for sure. I think even though Stain has lower technique and intelligence, he'd be able to catch on to what Aizawa is doing. And now I want to get to one big advantage and disadvantage that they both have. Stain is going to kill, and Aizawa is going to capture. That is a big disadvantage for Aizawa.
Why?
Because he cannot use lethal force. And while he does have his knife, I don't think he's super inclined to use it. He does use it against Toga later on, but that's while they're in the Shiai Sakai hideout, and where he has no choice to retreat. He has no, there are people's lives on the line. There's a lot. It's a more desperate situation that he's in. And I'm sure he got the go-ahead from cops and stuff, right? As opposed to him being alone now, where there's no one else's life on
Unless we have the
other hero, yeah. Where there's nobody else really that's going to die, other than that one, useless hero, whoever it is, probably native again. Like, I don't see him using lethal force until it's already too late. And like I said, Stain, he has phenomenal technique. It may not work against Aizawa.
It's not as good as Aizawa's technique.
But just like Aizawa got, overwhelmed by all these fodder characters, I feel like with Stain's pure speed, and I'm pretty sure they have about the same strength.
You do.
But with Stain's speed and Stain's technique, while yes, it is not as good, it's up there. It is, nearly as good as Aizawa's. I feel like he would just overwhelm, our sensei. And while there wouldn't be any killing blows, Stain would slowly chip away, and then we get a tired Aizawa, just like against Shigaraki, and then we get an injured Aizawa, because while Stain may not be able to lick the blood and paralyze him, a cut is a cut, and the adrenaline will be, pumping and everything, so Aizawa may not notice it, but even if you don't notice, your leg is cut off, you're not going to be able to stand and fight, right? And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just saying the damage done to your body affects it. So, while Aizawa, is going to be going fine, he's going to be going strong, he's getting cut, and he's getting injured over time, and he is slowly getting slower, and he's going to start, kind of maybe panicking. He's not going to go like freaking crazy or anything, but he would be like, oh, this isn't good, and then that's one more thought that he has in his head where he's not thinking of how to fight. And so Aizawa was just going to get whittled down to the point where, he can't fight as well, and then Stain just gets that one lucky hit that's, to the heart, to the neck, to the head, somewhere vital, and Aizawa goes down. I mean, this is a pretty good fight. It's just, it's such... I think that the difference really is with Stain's kit, and Stain's kit is meant to kill. Aizawa isn't, and he has to get close to use that knife, and it is a really big knife, but I don't see him landing any critical blows against Stain, mostly because I don't think he's going to want to use force. But even if he tries to hit Stain, while Stain's, technique is lower, and I guess I would go with hand-to-hand, sparring maybe, I think Aizawa's technique all lies in his scarf, not so much his knife skills. So, he's going to go in to try and kill Stain with his knife maybe, and Stain's just going to block it with one of his many knives. That may open the hero killer up for an attack with a scarf, but Stain may already see that coming, right? Because Stain is no slouch when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, and he was, calling shots when Izuku was, out doing him and stuff, when he was, kind of, when he was turning the level down for the kiddies. Alright, so, do we have a consensus? Or do you still think Aizawa wins?
Consensus.
Alright, Stain wins. Now, you did not bring up the fact that Aizawa was able to dodge Dabi's point-blank attack. It was a Dabi clone, so it's, 50%, so you could say, maybe it's a little slower, but I don't think so. Even though I do think Dabi is a little faster than Shoto in terms of his flames, because his flames seem more like an explosion, and those are pretty instant as opposed to fire, jettisoning out. But I don't think that would make too much of a difference, because once again, Stain was going a little easy on the children. But he was making mistakes, and he didn't expect Shoto to have flames, I'm guessing. Because, well, no, he should have, actually. I have no idea what happened there. But I can definitely say it is possible that Stain makes some mistakes, and that gives Aizawa the ability to, wrap a piece of his cloth around Stain's leg, and then from there he just slowly, like a spider, just starts putting his cloth around certain parts of Stain's body, and then over time he becomes a freaking cocoon. But I think, at least 6 times out of 10, Stain is winning. Just because of the arsenal that Stain has, it's meant to kill, and Stain is going in for the kill. Aizawa is going to go for non-lethal, especially if it's during the Hosu City arc, right before the attack happens or something. Because, yeah, the League of Villains happen and everything, but really, heroes were still trying to be heroes, and that includes being non-lethal, right? So, I think Aizawa would put up a really, really good fight. It's just timing. I mean, they wouldn't kill each other immediately, but as time went on, Aizawa would just get chipped away until he gets killed. But, yeah, that's what I think. That's what we think of the battle. And that's it. Hero Killer Stain wins, at least against Aizawa. So, guys, go ahead and, tell me what you think. If you think differently, or if you have any arguments that neither of us made for either characters, you can go ahead and put them down in the comments below. And like if you liked the video, dislike it if you disliked it. And yeah, that'll be it for now. Bye-bye.